Minister, I appreciate being given the time to raise this very important issue. I am hopeful of an update on plans to include schools in my own constituency, Scoil Small in Carlow and Scoil Lourdes in Tullow, under the Desch programme. Schools which fall outside the Desch support system are really struggling. The sooner schools which qualify for Desch are identified, the sooner these funding structures can be put in place.
Minister. Thank you, Deputy, and appreciate you taking the time to raise the question. Budget 2022, as you are aware, has provided for an allocation of €18 million for the 2022 year and €32 million for 2023 to extend the Desch programme to further schools with the highest levels of disadvantage. This represents an increase of over 20% in funding for the Desch programme and will enable an expansion in 2022 of the programme to further schools. This year, the Department will spend in the region of €150 million on providing supports to schools in the Desch programme. The programme supports 884 schools and over 180,000 learners. The Department's investment includes providing for over 400 homeschool community liaison coordinators in the region of €16 million in Desch grants, additional posts for Desch Band 1 primary schools, curriculum supports, enhanced book grants and access to the school completion programme. This year's package follows an extensive body of work which has been undertaken by the Desch Technical Group in relation to the development of a mode or model to identify the concentrated levels of disadvantage of schools. This work involved an initial process of consultation with the Department and the education partners on the technical aspects of the model. The purpose is to ensure that, as far as possible, the refined Desch identification model can be providing an objective and independent means of identifying schools serving high concentration of pupils at risk of educational disadvantage, and also to ensure there is a full understanding of the refined model and its potential application. The Desch identification process under Desch Plan 2017 is based on an objective statistics-based model to determine which schools merit inclusion in the programme. An extensive body of work has been undertaken by the Desch Technical Group in relation to the developing of the defined model, and the key data sources used in the Desch identification process are the Department of Education primary online database, the post-primary online databases and CSO data from the National Census of Population as represented in the Public HP Index for small areas, which is a method of measuring the relative affluence or disadvantage of a particular geographical area.
Thank you, Minister. You get a chance to come back.
Thank you, Minister. And I am aware of the review that is being undertaken for the Desch. But, Minister, I want Carlow and Tullow to be included in the Desch review, and I know families are moving from schools. This is the problem without the programmes such as the hot meals to schools that have them, and that is a big issue. And if you look at, say, Scoil Lourdes in Tullow, there is no Desch schools in Tullow, and then, Minister, in Scoil Small, in my own school, my own hometown where I went, they have been looking for Desch status for years, and it is becoming a huge issue because, Minister, the biggest issue is that school completion programmes and hot meals are only allocated to Desch schools, and schools on the crust must fight locally to access anything like that support. Desch is delivering results. Data indicates that schools which are introduced into the Desch programme continue to improve over time, and that's the issue. It's the timescale, Minister, on the Desch schools. And I have been on to you, and I know, Minister, you've always come back to me about these two particular schools that are struggling and are urgently in need of the Desch status. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. And I do want to acknowledge that you are particularly invested in this issue, and indeed I would venture to say that the vast majority of deputies here are also invested in it, but you have been particularly a strong advocate for the schools that you have referenced, and indeed for the rollout of the Desch programme and the enhancement of it and extension of it. You do not need to tell me. I am well aware of the importance of the Desch programme, and it is for that reason that I am particularly pleased that we, during budget discussion and engagement, that I did secure an additional allocation of 18 million for the 2022 year, rising to 32 million in 2023, which will allow an extension of the programme going forward. I would need to point out, Deputy, though, that it is important to note that schools are not required to apply for inclusion in the Desch programme, and that all schools will be considered under the refined model. It's also important to note that educational outcomes do not play any part in identification of schools for inclusion in the Desch programme, either at primary or post-primary level.
Thank you. Deputy Murnane-O'Connor.
And thank you, Minister, and I know that you did get the extra funding, and I do want to welcome that, but as I'm aware, even myself from talking to different principals, and particularly the two schools I've mentioned there, Scolmerigon Small in Carlow and Scolmore Lords in Tullow, what's happening is, Minister, our towns and villages, they're changing, and the review process needs to be furnished urgently so children do not fall through the cracks in their academic year, especially now when we all, as you know, we have the public health guidelines and everybody's trying to social distance and mind themselves. But Minister, today at our Children's Committee, it was on child poverty, and one of the issues that came out of that was the school's meal programme and how important it is to schools and to children that actually really benefit from this. Now, I know Minister Heather Humphreys, that's in her remit, but I believe that the two of you working together, that we need to look at school meal programmes in schools, particularly for the schools that keep applying for the Desch status and just haven't got it. But I do welcome the reviews going on, and I would ask you, Minister, that Scolmerigon Small and Carlow get the Desch status and Scolmore Lords and Tullow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy, and I appreciate the case that you're making. You are correct in terms of the Hot School Meals programme. It does not fall within my remit, but you are aware that Minister Humphreys did make some very positive announcements in relation to that also this week. I do want to acknowledge as well that there are other additional supports that are available to schools outside of the Desch programme, notwithstanding the importance of the Desch programme and the supports that it provides to school, and indeed, as I say, the expectation now as we look forward to rolling it out even further. But I do want to acknowledge, for example, and I've referenced it earlier, the CLASS programme, which is a provision of up to 52 million in extra teaching hours being made available to all schools for the COVID Learning and Support Scheme. And this is another significant resource that's going into schools specifically this year, specifically to, I suppose, meet the challenge of COVID, not just from an academic teaching and learning point of view, but also from the holistic point of view, where children and young people would have opportunities to experience, socialisation and all that goes with it. Yeah, thank you.